All right, Sam, training camp's right around the corner, so let's talk a little bit of training camp battles. I think the biggest ones around the NFL, we'll start with the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback. They signed Mitchell Trubisky during free agency and then draft Kenny Pickett, the only first-round quarterback, the only quarterback picked before the third round, actually. So how do you think that one's going to shake out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Kenny Pickett at some point is going to be the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The question is, will he be able to win that job in training camp, in preseason? I suspect not, given the problems with his game, right? And, you know, Kenny Pickett was not the best quarterback prospect we've ever seen come along. This was a group of passers that the NFL did not love. And who knows how far he might have slipped if the Steelers hadn't grabbed him, you know, with their first round pick, given the way the rest of the draft went. But the big issue that Kenny Pickett has is he holds onto the ball an absolute age on average, right? In college last year, 3.2 seconds on average per pass. That is an absolute eternity. Generally speaking, that will be about the slowest time in the NFL in any given year, or certainly right up there with the very slowest guys. And those guys are all going to be skewed because they're athletic, mobile, running type of quarterbacks, right?
Right, we're talking snap to release, snap to you getting rid of the ball or running past the line.
Exactly. So for that number to be as high as that was in college is a massive number. And that's a number that generally gets slower when a college quarterback goes to the NFL, right? And everybody talks about the speed of the game and what that does. Well, one of the things it does is it kind of slows down a college quarterback, and they take more time to do things because they have to kind of process the speed of everything. So if Pickett's time to release doesn't get a lot quicker, then I think the Steelers are going to look at Mitchell Trubisky and say, all right, you know, he's not the best quarterback in the world, but he's getting the ball out of his hands a lot quicker. He makes the offensive line look better because of that. He makes the receivers look better because of that, because those guys have the ball in their hands instead of the ball being behind the line of scrimmage and problems. But I think that's going to give Trubisky the kind of leg up that will have him, you know, in pole position in that camp battle. And the question is, you know, how long does Trubisky have?
Important to just back up what you're saying. Time to throw is a quarterback-driven stat, right? It is not a how long is your offensive line giving you. It's you being able to read the field, get rid of the ball quickly. Trubisky's in that 2.7 range, so that is far different than even what Pickett did in college.
And a reason it might be really important for the Steelers is last year Ben Roethlisberger had the fastest average time to throw in the NFL by a pretty big margin as well. So, you know, you've got Pittsburgh. They've made some changes to the offensive line, bringing in guys like James Daniels, like they've tinkered around with it. But you have a group that might immediately look dramatically worse than it did a year ago because they're going from a quarterback that had the fastest average time to throw to one that might have the slowest, right? And that change in extremes, you know, you might all of a sudden immediately look at this and go, whoa, what is happening to our offensive line? That might be inevitable anyway, but it might be enough to stop Kenny Pickett winning that job.
Now, the issue with Mitchell Trubisky, we've got 4 years of decent sample sizes for him, and he's never graded above 66.
Yeah.
66, 63, 64, 63. Incredibly consistent, and those numbers, by the way, for starting quarterbacks are all below average. Now, there was 2018 where Trubisky put up decent numbers. The Bears put up some points. They had a good supporting cast, but he just hasn't played quarterback at a high level. The hope, I think, for the Steelers when they signed him, though, was in a very limited time last year with Buffalo, preseason and a couple throws during the regular season, it looked a little bit better. Maybe they're hoping to get a better version of Mitch Trubisky, who was the number 2 overall pick. But I think you're right. Ultimately, hey, they want Kenny Pickett to be the guy. They're going to do what they can to get him on the field.
And that's why I think it's really all going to come down to what Pickett is. You know, if he is able to change his game and speed up his process and do all those things and address that biggest weakness, it's really not a high bar to clear to, you know, show better than Mitchell Trubisky. But I think that will give Trubisky the sort of the inside track, the early advantage, and then it's just a case of how long he can keep that or how long Kenny Pickett takes to show that he's now the better option.
So where do we think this ends up here?
I think Trubisky starts week 1. I think he wins the training camp battle, the preseason battle, and then it's a case of like how long is his, you know, rope at quarterback before he gets yanked and Kenny Pickett goes in.
All right, slightly different training camp battle to discuss the Green Bay Packers and their wide receivers. It's not about finding one player, it's about finding a plethora of players, a whole bunch of targets to go around with Devonte Adams moving on. So the Green Bay Packers, they have Randall Cobb coming back. They have Allen Lazard coming back. They signed Sammy Watkins. They have Christian Watson, second-round pick that they drafted Amari Rogers is there. Romeo Dubes. They've got all sorts of options here in Green Bay, and they have to replace the great Devonte Adams. How does this one shake out?
Yeah, I mean, they basically need to figure out a wide receiver depth chart based off all the players that they've assembled. And they've done it in a multitude of different ways, which is probably smart. They just haven't got anybody who on the surface looks like he has the ability to become that number one guy, right? Alan Lazard, the guy that was already there, the veteran, the established incumbent on the roster. Lazard has shown a connection with Aaron Rodgers and a degree of trust that Rodgers is not always very quick to give to receivers. So I think he probably has a pretty good chance of starting off as the team's primary target. Sammy Watkins is the one guy that has like the most readily available or most typical number one skill set. But the last time we saw that from Sammy Watkins in like a real sense, over an entire season, the only 1,000-yard season of his career, year 2 in Buffalo, right, which is all the way back in 2015, that career year before injuries started to hit, and the sort of Sammy Watkins potential got eroded. Randall Cobb, same kind of thing, right? We have a season where Randall Cobb was really, really good. It was just a long time ago at this point. And then you got the rookies, Christian Watson from North Dakota State, very Spartan kind of route tree, right? Not a complete receiver in terms of all the things he was asked to do in college in that run-heavy offensive system, and has height, speed, the straight line kind of explosive skills, but might not necessarily have the complete wide receiver tool set. And then the wild card, I think, is Romeo Doubs, who, a lower draft pick, but ran a much more complete route tree than Christian Watson. I think has better hands than Christian Watson. Could be the guy that Aaron Rodgers starts to develop quick confidence in, while Christian Watson is sort of adjusting to the NFL.
Doesn't sound all that exciting.
No, it's not.
For Packers fans. I mean, it's a battle, but it really is. All of those guys look better when you have a Devonte Adams there, right? When you start. But even if Devonte Adams was there, if you add and you drafted a Christian Watson in round 2 or whatever it might have been, and even added a Sammy Watkins, you'd still be looking at this saying, man, the Packers could really use more playmakers, even if Devonte Adams was there. And this has been the biggest question for the Packers over the last couple of years. And this is why part of the reason why they lost the playoff game. Remember, Devonte Adams was getting open early on. The Niners started deploying more resources there, and there just was not enough, whether it was confidence in the other receivers from Aaron Rodgers or just production from the other receivers in those games. So that's, I think, what we want to see in training camp. I don't like to completely overrate the training camp buzz and who's doing well, who's not. I think we're going to learn a lot, though, just from the Packers beat reporters who are saying, hey, it's Alan Lazard who's getting all the targets. Or if you hear that Aaron Rodgers and Sammy Watkins have a good connection early on, that might be the thing that I buy into as far as which of these guys are going to be the one to trust during the season, because Aaron Rodgers needs the reps with some of these guys, and he needs to earn the trust. And I think that's what you see from elite quarterbacks. Who am I going to on third down? We've seen a little bit of that with Alan Lazard over the last couple of years. We've seen a little bit of that with Randall Cobb. Aaron Rodgers, free agent, right? He liked bringing him in. But you really need more than that. Is it Christian Watson? To me, it's how quickly does Christian Watson figure out the offense, win down the field, catch the ball at the catch point where he's been inconsistent, or Sammy Watkins turning back the clock, as you said. 2019 was pretty good, but really 2015 is when Sammy Watkins was really good.
So what do you think this depth chart ends up looking like at the end of training camp? Let's say, 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers. What is the 1, 2, 3 in terms of supremacy for Green Bay?
I think it's going to be Sammy Watkins. I would put Watson as the 4, right? So I think it's Sammy Watkins, Alan Lazard in that number 2 spot, Randall Cobb as the slot, and then Christian Watson in that Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which was one of our comps for him as a receiver. And Valdez-Scantling was the size speed guy who ran down the field, ran the deep routes, stretched the defense. Watson, if he just has to do that as a rookie, that's not bad. If he's more than that, great. But I think Watson as the number 4, the deep threat specific guy, great. But I think they really need Sammy Watkins to be the number 1 option.
Yeah, I think Lazard starts off as the number 1. Sammy Watkins, the other starter, depending on how long the first injury takes to catch up to Sammy Watkins. It wouldn't shock me, though, if
Doubs is your wild card, isn't he?
Either as the slot guy or as, the first time Sammy Watkins goes down, it's Doubs that takes that spot rather than Christian Watson.
All right, there you go. Packers training camp battle. There's a few others to watch around the NFL. Some quarterback battles. Seattle Seahawks. Carolina Panthers is going to be interesting, right? Sam Darnold hasn't played football well at the NFL level yet, but he's only being challenged by third-round pick Matt Corral, right? So you've got a potential battle there where you're going to see a third-rounder, a guy like Corral, who we thought could have gone in the first or second round. So there's other quarterback battles around the NFL, but Steelers are the big one because you have the first-round quarterback, and then the Packers because they have to unpack an entire depth chart at wide receiver.